please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, there goes the bell, and it's 0.5% higher. 10,412.13 is about where we've started, and holding over there. 10,411.12. The market's holding around those levels, and the Nifty Bank as well is holding 24,990. So not quite made it to 25,000. Okay, now it is 980. So Nifty Bank has lost a little bit from the highs, but the Nifty seems to be holding, and the mid-caps are a smidge lower than the Nifty in terms of gains. What's working for the Nifty? Clearly Ambuja is working, and the numbers, especially the fall in unit cost, greeted with both hands by investors. TCS is up. Well, it's also Chairman Chandra's first anniversary, so a bit of celebration, perhaps sentimental positive, but the rupee could be helping IT stocks anyway. Lupin higher 1%, Dr. Reddys. So it's actually a pharma IT day. Tech Mahindra and, among the techies, it is TCS and Tech Mahindra that are higher, and there's of course Dr. Reddys and Lupin that are higher among the pharma stocks. That's the 1% gainers at this point in time. ICICI Bank, SBI are holding up about 0.6, 0.7 thereabouts, but now the Nifty Bank has dropped to 0.25% in terms of gains. Negative, Coal India 0.9, Bajaj Finance about 1% lower, NTPC, ONGC, HPCL are among the others that have lost a bit. Very few stocks in the red actually, about 6-7 stocks in the Nifty, but actually now the Nifty has moved very quickly below the 10,400 mark.
Okay, well, it's a decent opening for the mid-caps, you'd have to say, up about 0.3%. The market breadth is good, 5:1 in favor of the advances right now. Eros is your top gainer. Eros International is up almost about 8.5%. Reliance will buy 5% stake in Eros PLC. Apart from that, you have Mahindra CIE that's reacting to a good set of numbers. That stock too is up almost about 2% right now. Dilip Bilcon is one of the lowest bidders for the 400 crore NHAI project. So Dilip Bilcon is up 3%. Siemens has a board meeting today, so that one is up almost about 1%. Aurobindo is also moving up in the green. That's in the news. Fortis Healthcare, by the way, is falling further. 3% downtick on Fortis. And talking about losers, Biocon is the other one. The US FDA has completed the inspection of the Malaysia unit. So Biocon, I mean, there's not too much of a fall. They're just down about 1.5%. Otherwise, for the market, it's an okay opening. Nothing great to talk about, but still hanging on to that 10,390 mark for now. Anuj, first thoughts?
I think the first instinct normally on these days is to short if you get the gap up, and that could be happening, Sonia, right now. But it will be interesting to observe. I think TCS is having a bit of a gap up, and that is a big gap up that you're seeing right now on TCS. So could be, it could be a day where, IT at least does well for the market. Look at the chart of TCS. It opened with a gap, is sustaining that. The Nifty opened with a gap, but is showing a bit of a downtick, and the Bank Nifty is a bit soft. So could be a bit of an IT day, large cap IT day on the way up for sure. But Ashwini, your thoughts on market opening, and is there any trade right now?
See, we've given up 10,400 right at the open. We opened 120 higher. Now on the Bank Nifty, we are hardly 50 higher. So I think it's a fairly decent time to get short. Maybe the market takes a bit of time to fall, but I think overall it looks still a weak market. And keep your stops. But the first tick shows that there was selling at higher levels. The stop on the Bank Nifty now needs to be above 25,050, and on the Nifty, you can easily have a stop above 10,425 thereabouts.
So you're shorting both the Nifty and the Bank Nifty, Ashwini?
Yes.
Okay. Sudarshan, what's a trade now? Any trade in the IT stocks?
No, not in IT, but there is a trade in the PSU banks. Okay. Both PNB and Bank of India are short selling opportunities. Indigo is a buy. That buy is not just for today, it's also a positional call. And so is Asian Paints as a buying opportunity. Tata, I've been trying to say this about the USD quickly. I've been bullish on the USD and talked about how you should be long in the dollar. Yesterday, the USD broke 64.80. That was a critical support level, resistance level. It's heading towards 65.80.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That much. Okay. No, people were pointing out, Sudarshan, I should have asked you, that 64.80 was key and that got broken. But at the moment, 64.77.
There's some stability, yes, which has come back. Ashwini, thoughts on TCS? That is up about 1.5% right now.
See, it's a contra trade. I mean, you can't be long on TCS in a market which is collapsing. PSU banks, meanwhile, have reversed and now are making lows of the day. So you need to focus on what's going down. Now, TCS can go up 50 points, come off 50 points. In a bearish market, the trades have to be taken on the downside.
Okay, so what would be your big call for the day, Ashwini, then?
I think PSU banks probably came back 8-10% from the lows. I think this morning with a 1% gap up on PSU banks, I think they are a good short right now.
Okay, by the way, one more stock in focus today is Max India. That stock is moving up almost 2.5%. The company is exploring the possibility of an acquisition of Life Healthcare's shares in Max Healthcare. So that stock is now in the green. Volumes also picking up over there. Just keep an eye out there. Mitesh, quick thoughts from your end on the market opening and individual stocks?
So I think market opening is fine. I think it's pretty much in line with what SGX suggested, about 40-45 points open, and then we are getting some supply. I'm still not sure of the broader direction which the market might take. So therefore, I think I'm trading more of stock specific with more of stock specific bias. HUL looks like breaking down an important support level. The candlestick today is quite negative, so go short over there. While TCS, I think Anuj was just flagging that stock. I think if it starts sustaining about 29.85, 29.90, and we are practically there, I think then it would be a long trade with a stop of about 29.60 and target of around 30.50 to about 30.80 on the upside.
All right, gentlemen, thanks a lot for your time today. Turning out to be an IT day today for sure. You know, spoke about TCS. Look at NIIT Tech's intraday chart. Stock which corrected a bit is now showing once again some signs of bounce back. 782 on that stock, up 3%. Let's invite our market master for the morning. Then Pramod Gubbi, head of equities at Ambit Capital, now joins us. Pramod, good morning. What's going wrong with the market? Because global markets have stabilized. We have seen a couple of markets like Brazil, for example, actually go back to previous highs. So can't really blame global cues. You know, do you think it's mostly domestic issues which are now bothering investors?
I think it's a combination of both, like always is the case. But I guess in the shorter term, it will continue to be driven by global cues. And of all of them, worth watching the dollar, which clearly has been moving against its normal direction, given the situation in the US in terms of growth and inflation. One would have expected it to appreciate, but we've seen that go the other way, except for the last couple of sessions, where we might have seen the bottom of the dollar, which doesn't augur well, particularly for emerging markets. And that's something that global participants would like to watch out for in terms of a trend for 2018 in general. But of course, if the US government continues to persist on its spending and tax cuts, then of course you can look for the dollar to come under pressure. But that, I think, it's more of a 2019 story. So I guess clearly global cues will continue to drive the Indian markets, at least in the shorter term.
Okay, good morning, Pramod. But I mean, just to take Anuj's point forward, you can't run away from the Indian underperformance this month, this week, probably even this year. I've not done the year comparison very closely, but there is a stark Indian underperformance.
Yeah, I think, just like we had that outperformance last year, so we're giving away a little bit of those gains. But also, I think the nature of the Indian market also means that, we don't have support coming in from commodities, which have been a supporter for some of the other commodity exporting emerging markets. But at the same time, we've had challenges in terms of valuations. We've had our own issues in terms of, fiscal expansion, and also, the sort of, scams that have hit the market, particularly not great from a sentiment standpoint. So we're bound to lose some of the, outperformance we had in 2017. So it's but not natural in my view.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Have they fallen to attractive levels now at all?
Not at the market level. We'd like to see much more downside at the market level before it becomes attractive, on a much more broader basis. But yes, certain pockets clearly are lending themselves for a good entry point, for the rest of this year, particularly given the fundamentals are stacking up in terms of growth, both at the macroeconomic level as well as earnings growth.
Pramod, hi, good morning. What about earnings? I mean, you just briefly mentioned earnings growth. We were speaking to IIFL a while back, and they suggested that 22% earnings growth for next year is something that's, that can be expected. Are you as optimistic? And what did you make of the season so far?
I think it's clearly demonstrated some sort of a pickup. It's been a bit of a relief given the last 3 years haven't been particularly great in terms of earnings growth, at least at the index level. I think we will finally see a year of double-digit earnings growth. We're not as optimistic as 22%. We're penciling in a 15% growth at the index level for FY19. We think that itself is a significant jump over the mid-single digits or perhaps even lesser that we've seen over the last 3-4 years. So yes, certainly we are on an upward trend in terms of earnings recovery, and Q3 has really given us an indication that earnings growth has bottomed out for several sectors.
And which sectors or companies, Pramod, would lead that 15% earnings growth? Because at the end of the day, it's a sum of 50 companies.
Right. So, I mean, I think one is related to consumption, particularly given, this sort of spending we're likely to see in the run-up to the elections in areas like rural and so on. So, we will see consumption-related sectors drive that top-line growth with operating leverage, unless there is a massive inflation at the commodity level, which might impede margins. We think consumption can drive that growth. And also private sector financials, particularly those with a very strong CASA franchise. I think it is clear that cost of funding is clearly going up in the market, and in a rising interest rate regime, you would expect some of these banks which have a sticky liability franchise capitalize on rising asset prices and make that extra spread. So that should be the second source of earnings growth. And like I said, if the dollar continues to appreciate, IT might come back to contributing to the earnings growth at the index level. So, so those are interesting sectors to look up for FY19.
Okay. Pramod, the rupee is actually now an underperformer vis-a-vis other currencies. So, of course, that certainly is positive for IT stocks. I mean, once again, I'm just asking you if FIs are worried about some macro in India. We saw this sudden fall in the rupee, as well as, of course, yields have been moving higher.
Right. I mean, I think it's less to do with capital flows by itself, because if you see the numbers, they're no different from what they were in, say, August, September, or even November, actually. Barring January, when there's a big FI buying month, at least in the secondary market, the FIs have been relatively light. So it might be a tad higher in terms of the net FI selling figure that we will end up seeing in February, but nothing out of the ordinary to attribute it. So I think it's more of a global movement, and like I said, just like the equity markets, we are catching up on a bit of the outperformance, or perhaps letting go of the outperformance that we had in 2017.
Okay, for now the bank Nifty is almost in the red, so obviously, and that is where the problem is.
Midcaps as well.
Midcaps as well, but the problem is for the bank Nifty, and that too, the HDFC Bank. Just pull out the intraday chart of HDFC Bank, and even so the issue here is that if someone's selling, especially from the FI side, is selling HDFC Bank, say at 1855. You would sell at 1867 or 1870. So that incremental selling is still left in the large cap banking names, and that's what's impacting the bank Nifty. Expiry week as well. So obviously that's also not helping. So that's every rally gets sold into, and that's what's happening right now.
Others are contributing. Axis is down about 1%,
yes,
and of course even Yes Bank, maybe a smaller weight in the Nifty Bank, but all that is still adding up.
Not just banks, metals have also started to fall now. So Hindalco, Tata Steel, Vedanta giving up all of the gains that they saw in the last few days. Now the metal index is down to the low point. Pramod, I wanted your thoughts on some of the recent developments that have taken place. We've just heard from the government on opening up coal mining to the private sector. How much of a positive do you think that could be, or do you think it's too long drawn to have any impact at the moment?
Yes, prima facie, I think it is definitely positive. We want the government to get out of as many businesses as you can, letting the private sector contribute towards productivity gains and so on. But we know these things can be quite slow in terms of movements. We'll have to wait and see the fine print as to how exactly it's going to be implemented and with what time frame. But yes, I mean, no taking away from the fact that we need to head in that direction for most economic activities.
Okay, a word on fund flows, Pramod. The last year was all about domestic money driving this market, and this year so far domestic money is still compensating for the FII outflows. But since you do talk to a lot of FIIs, do you see the return of FII money at some point this year?
Well, we had begun to see that in January, and like I said, most people are watching the dollar very closely, and that may shift some sort of asset allocation back into the US, and particularly if the US Treasury yields cross 3%, go well north of 3%, then you might see that shift accelerating sometime towards the middle or end of this year. So today's minutes from the FOMC will be crucial in that direction, because it's important to see what the Fed makes of the economic growth and the inflation and the tax cuts and the fiscal expansion that we're seeing in the US, and that will drive the direction of asset markets globally as well.
Okay, well, of course, we'll watch out for the Fed minutes. Pramod Gubbi, thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts this morning. The market has given up all its gains. The Midcap index is in the red. The Nifty bank is flat. And actually, the Nifty and the Sensex also are getting to flat terrain. The metal index was expected to underperforms because global metals have taken a bit of a whack. But this is quite a sharp fall that we are seeing in Hindalco, down about 2.5% almost. Vedanta, Tata Steel as well weak. And Coal India as well is now beginning to show some weakness. It was not at all ruffled by the coming competition from commercial coal mining, but now there is a general sell-off, and that's affecting Coal India as well.
The key would be to see if yesterday's low is respected, because if yesterday's low is respected, then there could be some short covering as well. Because the initial instinct is to sell the gap ups. Weak trending market, as Ashwini was also pointing out, initial tendency is to sell. But those sellers then have to get follow through. So
yesterday's low was
around 10,340 thereabout, I think, on the Nifty.
Okay, the point where we ended actually.
Exactly. So that's something to watch out for. Of course, on the bank Nifty it will be slightly lower, but let's see. For now, there's some stability at lower level as well.
Okay. Well, we are coming back to the big story that came in yesterday. Commercial coal mining is back. It was a bold move, and that will end Coal India's monopoly. The cabinet has approved opening up coal mining to the private sector for commercial mining. Coal Minister Piyush Goyal announced that allocation will be done through auctions and that there will be no restrictions on end use or on prices. Sushil Kumar, the Coal Secretary, Government of India, joins us for more details. Good morning, Mr. Kumar. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, timeline, sir. Just about everyone is waiting to know when the bids will be opened and when is the earliest we can see the first private sector coal miner in the country.
See, next month we are likely to announce the timeline as well as the name and number of coal mines which are going to be offered.
So from then on to bidding and to opening of the tenders, what should be a reasonable timetable?
I think fiscal 19, the process should be completed.
Okay. Now, fiscal 19 is a long time. Would it be calendar 2018?
It's difficult to say right now, but obviously the government will try.
Okay.
So the production may take a bit of time, but by when will the auctions conclude, you think? By the end of the calendar year, maybe?
I would still not be very specific, but we have targeted fiscal 19, certainly.
Okay. And
so we can work with March, you think?
Yes.
Okay. The other big question is, have global mining giants shown any kind of interest, or will there be any kind of interest, companies like, say, a BHP, a Rio Tinto, Anglo American, and what is the government really doing to attract these big names?
I think big names are interested. We have feelers, but we also have to be realistic. You have to keep in mind that there is a Paris climate deal. The long-term prospects of coal are not very bright. Medium-term and short-term, of course, coal future I would feel is bright, and especially in countries like India and other developing countries. So I would feel that global giants would be interested.
Okay, that's interesting. So you have got feelers from some of these big companies. What are the big challenges currently? I mean, we have been speaking about the size of blocks that would be identified, pricing, consistency of regulations, etc. What are the big challenges that need to be overcome right now for this process to go through smoothly?
No, I think the big challenge is managing the expectations on both sides. On the government side, so that the message doesn't go that it is an effort to maximize revenue. And on the bidder side, to come prepared for sustainable mining and be fair and transparent. I think that's the biggest lesson that one has learned from the last auctions, which were not commercial mining, but end-use mining. So we have to be realistic on both sides.
Exactly, sir. Actually, we did speak to Anil Agarwal and other people who are prominent in the mining space. After all, the Vedanta Group has even bought into Anglo-American. The one theme we got from potential bidders is that government should not look for revenue maximization, but should look for more productivity. How would you react to that?
Yeah, I think I'm entirely in agreement, and that's what our policy is. We are not looking at revenue maximization, because the country and the public interest at large has to be served. Okay. We have to see that the coal mining is sustainable, environment friendly, clean coal is given to industries, and we have, everybody has win-win situation in the country.
Okay. Approximately what would be the sizes of the blocks that will be on offer? You all may have done some homework.
Yes, we have identified some big ones with about 40-50 million tons per ton per year production. We also have certain medium and certain small mines. So we will have a mix of all the three.
So it will be in various tranches, the bidding?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and how will the pricing of the coal be done? Will the cost of commercial coal be higher than the current e-auction prices?
No, we have given, the cabinet has approved full freedom of pricing to the successful bidder. So it depends on their efficiency. If they are very, very efficient, then it will certainly be much lower than the Coal India price.
Okay, you also said that you have got some feelers from big international companies. Which companies would they be?
No, I don't think we can discuss that.
Mr. Kumar, we just spoke with Mr. Gopal Singh, the chairman of Coal India, and he was saying that one of the big reasons why they are not able to reach their targets of 600 million tons a year is that there is an inventory logjam. There is an inability to dispatch beyond a point, and they already have, I think he said, 35 million tons in terms of inventory. Anything being done in terms of a conversation with railways or other ministries to declog the situation?
You have to look at the logistics sector in totality. Our country has been stagnating at a certain level of coal production, and accordingly, our logistics system, especially railways, they have adjusted. Now, suddenly, the dispatches are much more. So, railways are gearing up. We have a coordination meeting with myself and Member Traffic and Secretary Power. We meet every fortnight or every 20 days to sort out the issues. We have identified 14 railway projects which need to be completed quickly, and we are doing that. So currently there is a problem, but I am sure we can find a solution.
So you will, you think it can be unclogged in how much time, sir? 6 months, 2-3 quarters?
Yeah, I think so, because in 6 months to 3 quarters we should see some changes. Yes.
Okay, that's pretty quick. Any word from the government on Coal India's divestment?
Coal India has to divest to the extent of bringing government equity to 75%, that as you know. already know that.
Okay.
So that will happen.
Okay. Sir, that will happen FY19. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think we'll try that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Kumar, finally, Mr. Piyush Goyal also clarified that the revenue will go to the states. Can you give us some idea of what may be the conditions when the auctions happen? I mean, there will be the usual rehabilitation and contribution to the district mining fund. Can you give us an idea of how you are looking at how the revenues and what conditions will come?
You want conditions of the auction or
yes.
conditions for money flow?
Auction.
Yeah, it will be an ascending forward auction. The bid parameter would be rupees per ton. Whosoever offers the highest rupees per ton, that he will win.
Okay.
The floor price would be fixed based on the intrinsic value of the coal mine, and this bid, whatever is the successful bid, would be adjusted annually based on the wholesale price index coal.
Okay.
So if WPI coal increases, then this FPO will have to be adjusted accordingly annually.
Okay.
So those are the broad conditions. There will be complete freedom to export and freedom to price. There is 100% FDI, which government has approved, cabinet has approved, and there is flexibility in coal production schedule, so that if the market is down sometime, then they can adjust their production accordingly.
Fair.
So these are the broad conditions.
Okay.
Obviously, all the money, all the receipts will go to the state government, and it will be of three types. First is the initial money which we will receive, that will go to the state government. Then there will be royalty, and then there is a flow to the DMS.
Okay. All right. That's a fair idea, Mr. Kumar. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us a broad idea of what the timetable will be. Sorry?
Yes, important, right? I mean, we thought, of course, production will take years, but at least the auction process will conclude by
that
FY19.
I think is the biggest,
that's the biggest takeaway.
Takeaway from this conversation, that by FY19 we should see before the government's current term ends.
Okay, the market, by the way, has moved to the low point of the day. The mid-cap index is down 37 points. Something's wrong with Motherson Sumi. It's a large stock. It's not a smallish mid-cap. It's a large stock. At some point should be an index stock as well. And the consistent selling post the numbers on Motherson is something which would be bothering investors. Down 3% right now. We'll take a break. We'll carry forward this discussion, of course, on the impact of commercial coal mining with S.K. Acharya, chairman of NLC India. And we'll also get you the fresh technical ideas now that the market is at the low point.